Welcome to the January project update for GNU Radio. And we have a lot of big news. We have a whole bunch of releases, some exciting development work that's been done both on the code and to the documentation. We have a series of important milestones coming up with the Ubuntu 22.04 release around the corner, despite it being 3 months away. As well as a series of events with FOSDEM and GNU Radio Conference already on the horizon. So we'll walk through those and share what's been up with the project for the last month. Josh, starting out with the core big news about releases.
All right, we have releases. So we have 3.8.5, 3.9.5, and 3.10. So, 3.8.5, 3.9.5, those are maintenance releases and lots of bug fixes, and fortunately, lots of features getting backported from the master/main branch. And 3.10, this has been, a year in the making, has some new modules, grpdu, griio, also has a reworking of the logging framework, which gets rid of log4cpp, brings in spd log. Thanks to Marcus there, and there's some the other big other big features are custom buffers, so better integration with with hardware accelerators, so that you'll really see some performance improvement if you're working with GPUs or FPGAs. And I'm gonna take it back over to Derek here. I'm losing my voice.
Yes, let's definitely take over and watch your voice there. I hope you feel better soon. So we have the 3.10.0 release. Check out the release notes, the email and blog post that describe it. We do have the custom buffers, which are an experimental feature, although they've been in tree for quite some time now, over the past several months, and have had a lot of testing. This is the ability to more manually, more specifically, handle data movement between different types of devices and environments. Check out the series of videos at GNU Radio Conference, FOSDEM, and other events where Josh has spoken with a bit of a clearer voice about those features. There are notes and discussions in the change log as well. I think he covered the rest of the pieces, but certainly a big shout out, thanks, and gratitude to all of the people who have contributed to this release. As you can see, there's quite a list of people whose names are here who have directly contributed into the code.
Over 90 since the 3.9.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, that's a huge level of involvement for a project like ours, and just based on the email addresses alone, and many of them are somewhat generic, but there's a huge variety of individuals, organizations, and companies which have contributed into this. So thank you all. And of course, to all the people whose names aren't on that list who have contributed to documentation, who have contributed bug and issue reports, and all of the other pieces of energy and effort and work which go into a large release like this. We do have future work going on, extending, taking the custom buffers concept and building onwards. There's the large effort of assembling the next generation GNU Radio scheduler, which will have features which have been long not included in the GNU Radio core. Next week, on January 25th at 10 a.m. Eastern, we will be having a scheduler working group call discussing how to distribute flow graphs across multiple computers or multiple environments, the data communication required between them, the coordination of deployment, and all of the issues that feed in there. This is an issue which has been addressed a few times in GNU Radio's past, and this will be looking at how the new scheduler could make these much more of a native top-level feature. If you're interested in joining that new Sched working group, that new scheduler working group, we do have a mailing list. It's hosted on groups.io. GNU Radio-scheduler on groups.io. We'll paste a link into chat. We also have into the Twitch chat. We also have a GNU Radio chat channel on chat.gnuradio.org. You can search for scheduler in the room list and join there, or just ask in the general channel, and we'll signpost you over to it. This is where the day-to-day discussions happen on future enhancements to the GNU Radio scheduler. In addition to this work on future progress, we also have recently received a grant focusing on documenting what's in place today. So Mark, if you want to talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so as part of a NUM Focus grant that the project received, Matt from Wavewalker DSP blog is overhauling our beginner level tutorials. So we're trying to reduce the steep learning curve of GNU Radio that new people face and often complain about. We're doing everything we can, and he's currently halfway done. So at this blog page that Derek has open at Wavewalker DSP, Matt summarized the work done so far, and he links to the wiki page that we're using as sort of a staging area for the new tutorials. So you can check them out. I think all but the first couple are the new ones. And any feedback you provide now can be incorporated into the second half of Matt's work. So at the bottom of his blog post, there's a couple emails, both Matt's and mine, that you can use to submit feedback. And yeah, especially if you're new to GNU Radio, this is a perfect time to give the new tutorials a shot and try to improve them for future people.
Thanks, Mark. There are probably two things worth calling out here. These new tutorials, particularly these done during the first half of the work, are focused on demonstrating the core mechanics of using GNU Radio Companion. These are the non-DSP pieces that have really been lacking in previous documentation. Not the how do you assemble a radio system, but how do you physically use GNU Radio? How do you connect blocks? How do you configure parameters and variables and use the interface? And so we hope that these tutorials will be a critical missing stepping stone for people getting on board with GNU Radio. And so the feedback that you can give at this point, whether you are a brand new user, an intermediate user, or a long-time user, all three tiers can contribute quite significantly here. As I believe Matt does call out in his blog, this work is supported and made possible by a grant from NUM Focus, an organization dedicated to open scientific computing. And so we received a grant from them towards the end of last year. And there'll be a longer write-up on our blog at the end of this, as well as an update in next month's project call. So please do check out these tutorials, give them a shot, and give any feedback that you have. We have the FOSDEM event coming up in 2 weeks on February 6th, the Free Software Developers European meeting and the Free Software Radio Room. We now have our schedule updated. It is just a half-day track this year. Everyone is feeling the crunch of online events, and so the focus is on delivering a series of very interesting talks rather than trying to fill the entire time. The lineup is up and available and includes discussions by some regular names, repeat presenters, as well as several first-time presenters looking at FPGA acceleration, an update on the Open Wi-Fi project, looking at demodulating Voyager 1's signals, including follow-along datasets, updates to radar systems available within GNU Radio, introductions to the M17 Digital Voice project, and DMA, direct memory access data streaming from FPGAs to GPUs using Julia and open source software. So if you're interested in these, please do check out the event. It will be live streaming on February 6th, the Sunday, and talks and videos will be posted up, available, linked from the schedule after the event. If you are already in the GNU Radio chat, I'm pleased to say that the FOSDEM chat system is going to be directly integrated with ours, and so you'll be able to join the conversation without creating a new account. We'll link to the rooms as soon as they're created. Finally, we have the GNU Radio conference, and I don't have a page to share for this yet, but I'm happy to say that hopefully unsurprisingly, GNU Radio conference will be returning likely in September this year for another in-person event with live streaming, and we are looking at how to continue building on the last 2 years of experience in running an online event to make it as successful as possible and find the right balance between in-person and online content. We don't yet have the final ink on paper on the contract, but we do have a venue selected. And if we can push it right across the line, we will be making the announcement of the save the date and the venue likely in the next 2 weeks. So certainly look out for that. We unsurprisingly will be publishing a call for participation. However, in advance of those formal announcements going out, if you're interested in helping out with the event this year, either by volunteering as part of the organizing team or contributing workshops, tutorials, or other pieces of content around the event, if you have ideas, please do send an email to grcon@gnuradio.org, and the organizing committee looks forward to hearing from you. The team is making a particular focus this year on dividing and conquering the event, and so if you would like to play a role, small or large, there are opportunities to get involved. So send an email to grcon@gnuradio.org or post a message in the GNU Radio chat. Let me check out the Twitch channel and see if there's any questions. I see a few links have been posted in there. If anyone has questions, please let me know now. Otherwise, we will be wrapping up for this January project update. We have a few other things cooking in the background, which hopefully will make it into next month's project update. Building on the NUM Focus grant, the GNU Radio project is pursuing some larger funding opportunities, and if those come through, we hope to see quite a few areas that have been long-term pain points addressed. I suppose this is a good time to say that if you as a company or an organization are interested in directly supporting the project through developer time or financial contribution, please do get in touch. If you're interested as an individual, we do have a donation system finally set up that will be added to the website quite shortly. And that's at donorbox.org/GNU-radio. And that allows both one-time and recurring donations to the project. These are sent directly to us, allocated and earmarked for GNU Radio's use only, and we'll be looking at using these funds to support more small development efforts like we have with the NUM Focus grant, and look forward to whether we have the resources available to take on larger and larger standing issues. Thank you for that reminder. Yes, we do have the Ubuntu 22.04 release coming up, and the timeline for that is publicly posted from Ubuntu. The first testing week has already passed. However, March 3rd is their second main testing week. We are tremendously grateful to our Debian packager, Maitland Bottoms, for getting the 3.10 GNU Radio release in. There will be a 3.10 bug fix release pushed out in the next week. Hopefully, I believe that the intent is to lock everything in tomorrow, with addressing a few minor issues which have come up and some nice quality of life improvements before that final freeze happens. With GNU Radio in the box, the next piece to look at is the out-of-tree modules. There are quite a few modules which are packaged in Debian and thus inherited into Ubuntu, and we'd like to make all possible efforts to check that those out-of-tree modules function as expected, given that GNU Radio has updated. In great news, the major APIs for GNU Radio have not shifted significantly between 3.9 and 3.10. So we are already seeing out-of-tree modules being able to update to support both releases simultaneously. This is a significant improvement over our transition from 3.7 to 3.8 and 3.8 to 3.9. So we hope that if you are an out-of-tree module developer, that you will find it relatively painless to check against 3.10 and see if what, if any, updates are needed to support the small changes. We do have a wiki page. Let me pull that up with our porting guide for 3.10, showing the few small changes which have been made. Most of the changes are around modernization and some quality of life development improvements, which should make things easier to maintain in the future. But efforts have been made not to make those hard-breaking changes. So if you're creating new code, it should be easier. If you have older code to maintain, this shouldn't have a high impact. The porting guide points out a few things which have shifted around. The logging system is one of the big areas where there can be improvements in your code base if you are maintaining things. But please do check through this, have a read, and see if any of this affects you. If you are a user of GNU Radio, rather than an out-of-tree module developer, and you're looking at testing things, please do give it a shot. Try out the new Ubuntu release when they start producing their testing builds, and just try running things. File issues, and hopefully we can get as many of those addressed as possible. If there's sufficient interest, we'll put together a Hackfest day one of the weekends after GNU Radio, after FOSDEM, so early February, and just run down all of the packaged out-of-tree modules. With that, so a question from chat. There's a interest in 3.10. There's interest in a SIGMF, signal metadata format, set of blocks to be included in GNU Radio quickly enough to make this Ubuntu 22.04 release deadline. The SIGMF, signal metadata format specification, actually hit the 1.0 milestone in January 7th, I believe, and actually should have been a line item on this update, as that's a significant milestone. There was a workshop held last week, and you can check out on our YouTube channel the recording of that workshop. What's the best way of doing this? So if you go onto our YouTube channel, you can see that the most recent upload was a recording of that workshop, which gives you a good overview of what's been developed there. or what was produced there. The issue is that while the SIGMF spec has been updated to 1.0 and libSIGMF, a C++ library for interfacing with SIGMF, has been updated, the GR SIGMF out-of-tree module is a work in progress in terms of hitting that 1.0 spec update. And so there is insufficient time at this point to merge that in to Guinea Radio 3.10 before the Ubuntu 22.04 release freeze. And so there's a concerted effort going on to produce a very, very minimal SIGMF source and sync block. For those who are not familiar with SIGMF, this is a file format which extends, it nicely complements the existing raw data recordings, which Guinea Radio most standardly deals with and most other SDR software standardly deals with. And so in addition to your standard IQ data file, you would also end up with a .sigmf-meta, I believe is the file extension, file, which would include, for standard use cases, what data type the IQ file is. So no more guessing whether it's 8-bit signed integers or 32-bit complex floats. That would be encoded in the metadata file, as well as the date and time of creation, who the author was, who was making the recording, and some information about sample rate. Again, no need to guess that or build it into the file name, what frequency it was tuned to, and some other basic information about the recording. SIGMF extends much farther than that and supports multiple channels simultaneously, frequency retuning during a recording, and a variety of other advanced features. And absolutely the intent is to have blocks in the Guinea Radio core which support those advanced features. However, to hit this milestone, the proposal is to merge a highly minimal set which just writes that core frequency, sample rate, data type, potentially author, out into the metadata file alongside the standard file sync data file. So hopefully that points out a few of the abilities and limits of the minimal block. But if you're interested more in that, please do join the SIGMF chat on Guinea Radio. And Mark and Jacob, who have been most conversing about that, can answer any questions. Thanks so much for joining us. And if you're catching the recording, if you have any questions, please do drop a comment on the video, and we will do our best to notice that. But certainly, if you send an email either to the mailing list or join the chat at chat.guinearadio.org, we'd love to answer any questions. As always, if you have encounter issues using GNU Radio, please do drop into the chat if you feel it's a question about how to use it, or if you encounter a code bug, issue, or feature request, please do head to github.com/GNU Radio, and you can drop us notes there. With that, have a great January, and see everyone hopefully at FOSDEM, and then at the project chat 4 weeks from now. Till then, have a great time. Bye.